What's up, everyone? This is Jay from Revolution Radio, and yesterday we got Baghdadi, the founder and possibly kind of the face for ISIS. Trump announced that yesterday. He announced it rather whimsically. He went into great detail, and to some that was a concern. The whole announcement has not come without its critics. I think the first thing that we have to say is the road better without Baghdadi in it? And yes, I don't know who would argue the opposite of that. Not to say that the criticisms about the operation, its procedures, and what comes after aren't valid, but we do have to take a second and say, thank God we got this horrible terrorist. I think that's the first thing. Now, going into some of these criticisms. So, um, before the operation officially was underway, Donald Trump did notify the Russians, the Turkish, even the Kurds, but did not notify members of the Democratic Party who are usually involved, namely the so-called Gang of Eight, like Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff. He did not tell them. He said that openly that he didn't trust them. He said that they would leak it out. That is so problematic because we're trying to discuss the ends of a horrible terrorist who, he founded this awful group, killed thousands of people, and Donald Trump makes it political. And you can't say, okay, well, Donald Trump gets to say this and gets to blame Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats for leaking and just one off it. It does that sort of statement does justify a reply. And the replies came back. Well, most of the leaks that have happened over the last 2 years have come out of the White House, not the other way around. Needless to say, that's one of the first things that was criticized. The other was the fact that many military people and intelligence agents said that Trump was more of a hindrance than a help. Um, Partially just due to the fact that he pulled out of Syria so quickly. And from what I understand, that they knew where Baghdadi was. They have known that, and they were systematically taking people out. So, and the best way that I've heard it explained was actually on Bo's channel, Bo the Fifth Column. He has a great breakdown. How essentially you have in an organization like ISIS, you'll have your fighters and your politicians. You have, your very militant, um, battle-hardened individuals, and then you have kind of your PR people and your, to an extent, your strategists, people of that nature. Well, you take away from the militant, hardcore people, you kill them. That other side is going to turn because they're going to realize that their military tactics no longer work without strong leaders and strong fighters. Um, and they do believe that in a way that what was happening at that time was they were dwindling down the numbers of these hardcore militant people, your strong leaders, your strong commanders, um, and that they were working to a means to an end in that way. But since Trump pulled all the troops out of Syria, they well, is planning to, I should say, they had to get Baghdadi a lot earlier than expected. Now, maybe that's true, maybe it's not. It's kind of hard to say. The way that we'll know if it was true or not is, well, if ISIS retaliates in a very strong manner with a very, look, we're old, we're still here kind of retaliation, then we'll know that we didn't get it done like we wanted to. We didn't get the job fully done. Um, if they reply with a lot of videos and a lot of barking and a lot of, you know, declarations, and then they end up doing just small, minute, unsuccessful military operations, then we know that we did a really good job and we cleared out all of ISIS. Like they are literally on their last legs. That's where we want to be. So we'll find out like who's right, who's wrong. Is Trump right? Is ISIS, pretty much scooped out and dead? Or was this just a figurehead, nonetheless important, but a figurehead who didn't really have much communication with ISIS? Reports have come out saying that is actually more accurate than him being, than Baghdadi being a substantial part of the ISIS military. It's hard to say. I don't know. The other thing that happened yesterday was there was a very important baseball game um, between the Nationals and the Astros. Game 5 of the World Series. Um, I I feel bad for the baseball players who have worked their entire lives to get to this point, and nobody's talking about the actual game. Even I couldn't tell you who won. I'm not a baseball fan, but I'm more of a sports fan than I am a Donald Trump fan. But Donald Trump ended up taking more of the highlights from that game, as when it was announced that he was there, he was greeted with a smattering of boos and a certain chant, "Lock him up." Now, the people who chanted "Lock him up" have been heavily criticized by media today. People like Joe Scarborough from Morning Joe to, of course, Fox News. Even members of CNN and MSNBC have said this is really dangerous rhetoric. We shouldn't be. We shouldn't say that to him because when you threaten to lock up a person who is running for office just because you don't like him, that gets very dangerously close to a dictatorship. Yeah, we said that 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when he was saying it about Hillary Clinton, and none of these people spoke up. It's just, honestly, they don't have the right to make that criticism about these people. And it was people, it wasn't very organic chant. It came namely from the rafters, the cheaper seats that I'm sure were probably a couple $100s a ticket. But nobody let it. This was a baseball game. This wasn't anything political, but it showed the anger and the frustration from this country. And just to touch back to the last story, we were talking about getting Baghdadi, but Trump makes it political by, insulting Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats while he's doing it. He can't do anything without making it political. And that's the Trump fatigue is his biggest enemy, and he's the one who's amping it up. I really do think that if he just kind of shut up and went away for a little while, he would do a lot better in the 2020 election. But he doesn't. He has to put himself on center stage. And people are tired of it. And I think that's why he got the boos. Because I think a lot of people were saying, look, I've saved up for, a long time, or I'm going to be in debt for a long time, so I could go to this game because I want to watch baseball. And look, stupid's got to be here, and I can't enjoy myself. And, well, that's my take on it. That's really why I think it got so polarized, and why it was such a big deal. Um, but to the media who criticized these people for chanting "Lock him up," uh, again, you don't get to make that criticism because you didn't make that criticism about Trump when he was saying it to Hillary Clinton. That the chant "Lock her up" is still chanted at Trump's rallies, but he gets away with it. No one says, you know what, that's really, really dictatorish. That's a slippery slope. That's dangerous. We shouldn't say that. No, they don't say that at all. They don't say, you should have more respect for the office. You should have more respect for, your political allies or enemies rather. No, not at all. None of that is said. And I think that's there again another thing. It just frustrates people. Um, is without a doubt one of the most frustrating things about this presidency is there's many situations like this situation where Trump he'll lash out, he'll make a comment, he'll start a chant, and let's be honest, he's the one that started the chant, the lock her up. At his rallies, he's the one that's does the lock her up chant. Then we have this baseball game situation where the people as a whole came together and started it. There was no politician who started it, and let's remember that because that's really important here. Look, if Bernie or Elizabeth had started this chant, fair enough. You could say what you want, but it wasn't. It was the people. That is far more important. But anyway, they do that, and oh, the people shouldn't say anything. It's just they always make Trump a victim. He does a really good job of painting himself as a victim, but the people are the media, and they do such a better job of helping him play that victim role. But yeah, I think that's the big takeaways from both of these stories is we're at a point now where we can't get away from things being politicized, and I think we strongly want to, but somebody, you know, uh, in the White House will not let that happen. And namely because he's grasping at straws at this point. Um, his numbers are down. Look, I can't think of a time when political dissonance was so much that I've heard a large bipartisan independent group boo and do political chants. Without a doubt, that's the most shocking thing about the whole situation with the baseball game last night. And it just it won't go away. I mean, and I think it speaks volumes to what this country feels about their president right now. In fact, watching it last night, I don't know how I even got on a stream of watching the game, but I was watching it on Twitter, I believe. And when I heard them talk about Donald Trump and they were kind of announcing him, I was like, ugh, I don't want to watch this. Of course, because in my mind, I assumed they were all just going to kind of give him a little applause and, go about their day. But I was shocked with the boos. And I didn't hear the chant, to be honest. The stream I saw was not, I guess, in the area where the chant was. But, I mean, overwhelming boos. Very strong boos. Um, but no, seriously, I think that's it paints a picture about America right now, and it's on one that we definitely need to pay attention to. And if you're on the Democratic side, uh, and you're trying to argue, like if you're a Tim Pool or one of those who's arguing that we shouldn't try to go through with impeachment, who argues, oh, we're just going to get more Trump. Ask that crowd, because I'm pretty sure that crowd would disagree with you. And I don't know how much more of a pure sample you want. But these people were going to a baseball game, not a political event. And you saw how they felt. Um, anyway, that's it for me on these. Curious what you guys think about all the stories. On Facebook, I am Jay Dillon. On Twitter, JC Show VIP. The YouTube page is Community of Ideas. If you want to hear me on Anchor, iTunes, Spotify, or Google Play, just search Revolution Radio. All right, have a good evening, guys.